car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
Hello, I'm Mark Franklin. Welcome to another edition of The Attorneys. Just wanted to let you know that in a recent year in Alabama, there were 932 people killed and 853 fatal crashes. That gives you the magnitude of why this show is so important, as we're talking about car accidents, what to do after an accident. And of course, you can get in contact with an attorney at Hollis Wright by calling 1-844-LAW-TALK right now. That call is free, it is confidential, and they're looking forward to hearing from you right now. Let's get into this now as we get over to Carter Clay and John Spade as we talk about these car accidents and the big problem that we see from them.
Yeah, good to see you, Art. That's a sobering statistic. I guess I could say self-driving cars can't get here fast enough, right?
And I have one, but I'm a little afraid of it.
Well, it may bring its own set of problems into the equation. But yeah, we've covered this topic many times on this show before. John Spade is an outstanding lawyer in our office, been practicing with us for several years. He's handled a lot of car accident cases. And we really just wanted to kind of put a little bit of a different twist on tonight's show because, as you know, if you're involved in an automobile accident, whether you're injured or not, it is a very nerve-wracking, stressful, inconvenient experience, especially if your car gets damaged and gets towed and you're without an automobile. And certainly if you are injured in an accident, that brings its own set of problems in terms of medical bills and pain and suffering and being off work. So it's a big issue that still plagues our society, as you mentioned, with those statistics. And what we want to do tonight is give the viewers just some information that will help make that accident a little bit easier to deal with in terms of what to do, what type of information to gather, what not to do, and things of that nature. Just kind of give them a roadmap of what to do to make the process a little bit easier. And John, thank you so much for joining us here this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a little while since I've been back on the show. It's good to be back, good to be here. And I agree with what both of y'all said. This is a huge, it can be a huge inconvenience. It can be a life-changing event for people. And when you're, just get in an accident, there's a lot going on, and you might not be thinking through all the things you need to do to preserve certain evidence, to make sure that you have everything down the road if and when you need to make a claim. So I think this is going to be a good topic for the viewers, and hopefully some real kind of stuff that they can take and apply if they're ever in an accident. Hopefully none of our viewers ever are in accidents, but if they are, some useful information for them.
Well, let's just jump right into it at that point. So if somebody is involved in an accident, whether it's their fault or not, what are some of the bullet points or high points that you would want the viewers to know in terms of like what they should do from the time they're in an accident, once the cars come to a standstill? What should they do there at the scene?
Well, first and foremost, make sure that nobody's injured, or if they are injured, tend to them immediately. Try to secure them. Do whatever you can to help them, to get the medical personnel to them as quickly as possible. That is paramount and number one. Notify 911. Somebody might have seen the accident happen, a witness, a passerby might have seen it. They might have already called 911. If you can get to your phone, call 911. Get the paramedics, the ambulance there as quickly as you can. Get the police officers there as quickly as you can. Once the scene, kind of has been secured and, everybody who needs to be tended to by medical personnel has been, get the information of the drivers, of any witnesses, obviously talk to the police, give them a truthful statement of what happened, and provide, insurance cards to the police officer, exchange insurance with the other driver, get the other driver's names. A lot of times that will be, one of the last times you might see that driver. They might be taken in an ambulance to go to the hospital, and you might not see them again, and then you contact our office or another office to pursue a claim, and you don't know who that driver is or what their insurance is or anything like that. And a lot of that information does show up in the accident report. That's why it's important to be truthful to the officer. But getting the identity of people and then taking any photographs. If you're in a state that you can do that, physical state you can do that, taking photographs to document things right there when it happens. That's obviously very important.
John
as well.
mentioned something about being truthful, and that officer is there gathering information because they've got to put together the report. What if I think that I'm at fault? Should I tell that to the police officer that I think that I caused that accident?
What I would say is certainly be truthful, be honest, and forthright about what you recall happening. It's up to the investigating officer to kind of apportion fault. But if you ran a red light, you need to tell the officer that you ran the red light. And so I wouldn't say that you need to, be coy or try to avoid responsibility. But at the end of the day, the officer's there to gather information and gather facts about what happened, and then they're going to make a report. Most drivers, you go through and you take a driving test, and you've been driving for several years, but you're not trained on the rules of the road specifically. The officer is, and the officer can apply the facts, of the case to the rules of the road and start apportioning fault. So more than saying I'm at fault, I'm not at fault, all of that. Be truthful about what happened.
Yeah, I think people need to understand the distinction there because it's important. You don't want to use the words, I'm sorry, it was my fault. But at the same time, you have an obligation and responsibility to be truthful and tell them what happened or tell the police officer what happened. And if you ran the red light, obviously it's your fault, but you don't want to use those words necessarily. And in fact, a lot of these insurance policies that people have, the automobile insurance coverage that they have, will say they'll give you sort of the do's and don'ts of if you're in an accident, and it will say don't admit fault there at the scene, but certainly you have to tell the police officer your version of what happened. Absolutely. And be truthful. Now, representing people who are not at fault in an accident, if I was not at fault in an accident, yes, I probably would be trying to get the other person who was at fault to admit that they were at fault at the scene, because obviously that could prove very helpful in a court of law if you've got that type of admission. But yeah, if it is your fault, probably not do it. And I think it's also important, just to kind of add to what John was talking to, be proactive at the scene if you're not hurt or if you're able to be proactive. And what I mean by that is, don't just sit by your vehicle, wait for the police to get there, and be responsive. Be proactive. Take photographs of the scene. Take photographs of the position of the vehicles. Gather as much information as you can gather, because that will prove invaluable down the road. If there are witnesses there, sometimes these witnesses, they don't want to stay, but they've got valuable information. So at the very least, get their contact information, get their name and phone number, so that you'll have that down the road if you need it. And the other thing I would mention is, don't assume that the police officers are going to get it absolutely right when they are writing up this report. Oftentimes we find that there's missing information, there's inaccurate information there in the report. And one final thought before we go to break is, if you are injured and you have to get medical treatment, which is first and foremost the most important thing to do, follow up with the police officers. Make sure they get your version of what happened, because if you're taken away in an ambulance, well, guess what? The police officer there at the scene is only going to be talking to the driver of the other automobile. He or she is not going to hear your version of what happened, and they need to hear your version of what happened.
Absolutely. Carter Clay, John Spade, Hollis right here for you, providing the information you need. We're talking about car accidents, what to do after an accident. Also want to let you know, please follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. There's information that's shared there throughout the week. You can stay in touch with Hollis Wright all week long. Of course, we love it when you're here with us. We're going to take a break. We'll continue with this topic right here on The Attorneys next.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show 8 years ago, my hope was we would be able to do what we do best, which is to help people answer real-world legal-related issues they have in their life.
People oftentimes are confronting various legal issues and problems in their lives that range across the gamut of legal practice areas. Bankruptcy, criminal law, family law, just to name a few. And to be able to have a 30-minute platform or format to where we can just cover various legal topics once a week, that's obviously the primary focus of the show.
That we would be able to use the resources of the many lawyers we have at this law firm to create a plan that had a lasting impact that also gave back to the community at the same time. And I think we've done just that with the attorneys.
Did you know when you have to take a case all the way to trial, there is almost always insurance involved? Don't take on large insurance companies on your own. Our attorneys are standing by right now to give you a free consultation. At Hollis Wright, your result matters.
Welcome back to The Attorneys. I want to remind you that lawyers are standing by right now and can answer your question live. It's free, it's confidential. It's 1-844-LAW-TALK, and you can reach someone at Hollis right now. But right now, you've got two attorneys from Hollis Wright as we're talking about car accidents, what to do after the accident. John Spade, Carter Clay, and we want to get right into this one question. I think I might be hurt, but I'm not sure. Should I call for medical assistance?
Yeah, you want to handle that one?
The short answer is yes. I mean, if you think that you might be hurt, there's a good chance that you probably are. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. This is an extremely traumatic situation. Your adrenaline's pumping. You might not feel it immediately, but if you are feeling pains immediately after an accident, something doesn't feel right, you need to get that checked out. And you know, if you start feeling pains hours, day after the accident, you need to follow up as well. Between x-rays, CT scans, MRIs, there's stuff that even if we can't see it on the outside, say you're not, bleeding from your forehead or, have a gash in your hand or something like that, there's stuff going on underneath that might be an issue. It needs to be diagnosed and treated by a doctor, something that, you and I, it's not a time, I guess, that I would say that it's a time to tough it out and say, I'll be okay, it'll all, because the further you get away from the accident, it can end up causing more damage if it is left untreated. So yeah, short answer, if you're hurt, you need to go get checked out.
There's an old saying, better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
It's applicable here because one of the top things that automobile insurance companies look for when people make a claim arising from an automobile accident, or really any accident for that matter, is they look for gaps in medical treatment or the lack of medical treatment. So by point of illustrating the point is, if you get in an automobile accident, you wake up the next day and your neck is stiff, and you just say, well, I'll just wait a week, 2, 3 weeks to see if it goes away on its own, and it doesn't go away on its own, and you wind up going to a doctor 30 days after the incident. Well, the insurance company's going to want to know, well, what did you do between the time of the accident and when you finally went to a doctor? Let's say you do heavy manual labor for work. Oh, well, so you lift a lot at work, or you lift a lot, and they're going to start to try and identify activities during that 30-day time period that could be the cause or a contributing factor to that neck pain and problem for which you got medical treatment 30 days later. So getting some medical treatment closer in time to the event itself is critically important to the lawyer being able to successfully pursue a claim for somebody.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got another question here. Do I have to report the accident to my insurance company? That's a great question, and we see oftentimes people not wanting to report it to their own insurance company, and there can be consequences for that.
Right, absolutely. And most times you're thinking, I don't want my premiums to go up. I didn't cause the accident. Why do I have to talk to my insurance company? And there's a couple of different reasons to do that. Most all automobile insurance companies have a clause in there that you have a duty to cooperate with your insurance company. And that means letting them know that, hey, I was in an accident. I didn't cause the accident. Here's what happened. I'm gonna make a claim on the other person's insurance, but I want to let y'all know that, hey, my car was damaged. It's at a tow yard. We need to get this fixed. We need to get that fixed. There is a duty to cooperate. Now, there is a certain period where you might become adverse to your own insurance, and we've touched on other shows about uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, but you do have a duty to cooperate. So I would say, even if you're not at fault, even if you're going to make a claim against the other person's insurance, go ahead and contact your insurance broker, your local insurance agent, and just give them a heads up and say, hey, this is what happened, just want to let you know. And then it can sit there, and the attorney that gets involved in the case can then take it one step further, whether you pursue a property damage claim on your own insurance for whatever reason, or you pursue one against the other insurance company, or whether you make an uninsured motorist claim. The attorney can take it from there, but you do need to let them know at the outset.
Yeah, and John, all of that makes sense.
Yeah,
all that makes sense, right? But then you get that call from the other insurance company,
right?
The insurance company or the other driver. Do I have to cooperate? What's my obligation at that point?
A hard and fast rule is do not give a recorded statement without an attorney being involved, an attorney being there. And I would say that's across the board. But also, you don't have to be rude to the insurance adjuster.
Don't just hang up the phone.
Don't just hang up the phone. If you've already contacted an attorney, what I tell my clients is, hey, you might be getting a call because it takes some time. You got a lot of moving parts. You got the claim might be opened by, one department in the insurance company, and the adjuster's assigned in a different department, and things get lost in the shuffle those several weeks after the accident, and you might get called directly. Just be very polite and say, thank you. Yes, I was in the accident. I have an attorney. His name is, John Spade at Hollis, Wright. Here's his phone number. Please give him a call. And then I'll step in and I'll take it over from there. The insurance companies, and I know it probably sounds like we're the big bad insurance companies, all that sort of stuff, but they're trained to elicit information, to get information from you, and they're using that information to adjust the claims and to put values on the claims, and they're going to try to drag out information that then later on, what you thought was harmless at the time, can be used against you down the road. So, respond or don't respond at all, but at least let the attorney, if you have an attorney, know, hey, they called me, I didn't answer the call, or I spoke to them and this is what I said. Mm-hmm. But I would say less is more when talking to the other person's insurance company, but be respectful and don't, I wouldn't be cussing them out and being, why are you calling me? I got an attorney. They might not know. They might not have gotten the letter yet. So be respectful, but let them know I've hired an attorney, because at that point they can't talk to you because you're represented by an attorney.
Yeah, you don't have a duty per se to cooperate with somebody else's insurance company. You do have a duty to cooperate with your own insurance company. But if you're talking to the adverse insurance company, provide them your name, address, even maybe provide them with a copy of the accident report, your driver's license number. But if they start asking you to sign medical authorizations for them to get so they can get your medical records, or certainly if they start asking you to give a recorded statement, you need to be on high alert at that point, and you need to contact an attorney to try and help you with that claim.
That's quick and fast. I have an attorney at Hollis, Wright, and here's the number.
That's right, that's right.
All right, we're going to take a break here. As you know, something that we really enjoy here on The Attorneys is hearing from you at home. And we've got a viewer question, and we're going to have that when we come back. Just a reminder, though, follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow Hollis right there so you can keep in touch with the firm throughout the week, not just on this show. We'll be back after this.
I'm attorney John Spade with the Hollis Wright Law Firm. If you have ever had a personal injury claim, the attorney handling your case has likely told you that a portion of your settlement would have to be used to pay back your health insurance company for the medical bills that they paid relating to your injuries. This is called subrogation. In this week's Legal 411, we are answering the question, what is subrogation and how does it affect your personal injury claim? When you purchase health insurance, you sign a contract with the health insurance company, which provides that in exchange for you paying a monthly premium, the insurance company will pay your medical bills when you're injured. Now, that contract has a paragraph that gives your health insurance company the right to seek repayment for the medical bills they paid if you in turn use those medical bills as a basis to recover from a third party that caused your injury. The idea is that your health insurance company would not have had to pay your medical bills if it weren't for the wrongdoing of the third party. Now, health insurance companies routinely put attorneys on notice of their subrogation claims by outlining exactly which medical payments the health insurance company is claiming a subrogation claim for and for what amounts. Throughout the handling of your case, your attorney should be aware of the amount of subrogation your health insurance company is claiming and whether all the claimed subrogation is related to your underlying personal injury case. That way, if your case resolves, your attorney can then negotiate a reduction of the health insurance company's subrogation claim. Subrogation is one of the many moving parts that can affect your personal injury settlement and what you stand to recover. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and our promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys.
Did you know a tractor trailer weighs upwards of 80,000 pounds and a car only weighs 4,000 pounds? Well, that's a big difference if you've been injured in an accident. Call us now. Our attorneys are standing by right now to help. At Hollis Wright, your result matters.
And we welcome you back to The Attorneys. We love hearing from you as we come back talking about car accidents, what to do after an accident. And fellas, we have a question from one of the viewers because we know how much we love that. This is a question from Yvette. Watch this.
I do have one question. If I'm in a minor car accident, do I need to call the police?
That's a great question.
Yes, the answer in short is yes. You need to document everything. We talked about with medical treatment and giving information and gathering information after an accident. Doing those things and then putting your insurance company on notice of everything, it's important. So yes, you absolutely need to.
Yeah, and remember I talked at the outset of the show about sort of the do's and don'ts, top 10 list of things that an insurance company is going to tell you to do. One of the things is that if you're involved in an automobile accident, you definitely need to call the police so that there is a report made about it, all of the information is gathered. And while I don't know that this would necessarily happen, it's not outside the realm of possibility that an insurance company could deny coverage for a claim for somebody who's at fault if they don't contact the police and have a report generated. So it's very important to have that done.
So we want to thank Yvette for that question indeed. Yeah. Something else here. What if the other driver's insurance company wants a copy of my medical records? I think we kind of touched on this, but should I release those medical records, Carter?
Well, that's obviously part of the process. When we are as lawyers representing somebody, we're going to gather all of their medical records and bills and ultimately provide a copy of all those records to the insurance company that we're making a claim against so that they can evaluate it themselves and make some determinations about the value of the claim. But I would be very cautious about trying to do that on your own without an attorney involved, because there are a lot of pitfalls and issues that John can probably speak to that you need to be guarding against. And so when you get to that point, if you've got injuries and you have medical treatment, medical records and bills, you really need to have an attorney involved in that process.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, the medical authorization that the insurance company is going to send you is going to be kind of a very open-ended, kind of giving them carte blanche to go in and request your medical records. And a lot of times it won't be limited in scope or to the providers that you treat. And what they're trying to do is to dig up information and say, oh, well, you have a back injury or a neck injury or a shoulder injury, and you treated with this doctor 10 years ago for a shoulder injury. That's what was caused all your pain, and you've been having continued pain since that time. They're looking for things, and so they don't have a right to request that information without you giving them permission to do that. That's what HIPAA protects, and so they're trying to get that permission, and a lot of times they're not going to narrowly tailor the request to the specific providers or to a reasonable time frame. That's why it's important to get an attorney involved in those decisions, so that they're not having carte blanche to go root around your medical record from 20, 30 years ago.
Shifting gears a little bit, we've got a viewer here that has a question. They were involved in an automobile accident and they've got a neck injury, but they were driving and they were not wearing their seatbelt. Of course, I preface that question by saying everybody should be wearing their seatbelt. It's the law to wear your seatbelt, really, if you're any occupant in an automobile. But talk a little bit about the consequences of not wearing a seatbelt in a legal context and whether that can be used against them.
Yes, 100%. Always wear your seatbelt. We want everybody to be wearing their seatbelt. However, legally, that cannot be offered to against your damages, against your compensatory damages. They can't offer that and say, well, if you'd been wearing a seatbelt, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. That's not coming in. That's just the prejudicial effect of that. They're not allowed to enter that evidence in. There is a small area where potentially can come into play for like a product liability case if you're alleging there is or crashworthiness and you're alleging there's a defect in the seatbelt works with a number of different things to help protect your body, and if that wasn't in place at the time, then for those small kind of areas. But by and large, no, that evidence is not coming out. That's something we'd file a motion in limine to exclude before trial, and there's good case law to support that.
But something else that comes up is a situation when you're in an accident and the other driver does not have insurance.
Yep.
My medical bills are soaring and my medical insurance is not covering all. How can you recoup that, or how can you get that paid?
Talk briefly about coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so we touched on it, I think, a little bit earlier with the uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, and that's something, that coverage that you have on your automobile coverage, and if the other driver does not have any insurance and you have what's called uninsured motorist coverage, that would apply. Or if the other driver has, for instance, the state minimum in Alabama liability is $25,000 in coverage. If they only have $25,000 and you're catastrophically injured, you don't have any health insurance, and you've got medical bills that are piling up, hospital liens, whatever, that's going to exhaust that $25,000, then you can make a claim against your own insurance for underinsured motorist coverage. And just a practical point to the viewers, this is a coverage that you don't get to access if you're at fault for the accident. In Alabama, we have contributory negligence. And so this is not a situation where you're making a claim on your insurance and your insurance should get dinged because you're a higher liability, a higher risk on the road because you're causing accidents. For you to access this coverage, you're not at fault at all. They just either don't have insurance, the person who caused the accident, or don't have enough insurance, and it is a very, very low premium for a good bit of coverage. We're talking $8, $10, $15, $20 for your policy period and getting $25,000, $50,000 in coverage.
Yeah. So much to unpack with this.
We'll have John on again later.
Exactly. We could do shows in a row, a series of these shows. John Spade, Carter Clay, thank you guys so much for being with us again. And you guys at home, thank you for joining us for another edition of The Attorneys. Catch us next week, same time, same place. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.